Okay, very good. Well, this is a favorite topic of mine because it's very timely in the careers of all of our trainees. Um, these are the various steps in writing and publishing a scientific journal article. And let me tell you that I have mentored students for the last 45 years, and this is the number one critical item in early career development. Next slide.
Go ahead.
So, one of the things that is a common question among trainees is how do I select an appropriate journal? And I tell them really that some of the clues are in your manuscript. So, look at your own citations. You've got a literature review. What are the journals that are in your citations? And then consider the length of your manuscript. Some journals will accept longer manuscripts than others, and these are usually well described in the instructions to authors that you can look at online for every journal. Next slide. So, in many cases, and maybe for many of you in this room, you may have more than one topic to publish about. So consider that if you have a very long manuscript, maybe dividing it into two manuscripts will get you a much better outcome. So in addition to that, you may have more than one topic, and it might be possible to publish in two different specialty journals. Next. So make a tentative list of journals. And the most important ones, be sure to read the instructions to authors online. And look for the editorial advisory board members, which will probably be published along with the instructions to authors. And why is this important? Next. So, why is it really important? Because these are the people that will be your peer reviewers. And let me tell you a secret. That is, there will be individuals among them who will specialize in your topic. And it's likely they will be assigned by the editor to review your manuscript. It will be particularly negative if they read through your literature review and they do not see their own name. If they do not see that you have cited work that they think is important that they have done previously. So that's why it's important to see who the likely peer reviewers will be. Take a look also at the last 1 or 2 years of the topics published in a particular journal. That will let you know whether the editor is likely to think yours is something interesting. Next slide. So, this is an important topic about predatory journals, and I'm going to diverge a little bit from the general topic to talk about predatory journals. Junior investigators are typically vulnerable to the negative part of predatory journals. Next slide. So, review your list of journals and write down the plus and minus comments about each journal. Next. So consider, next, time to publication. Most journals will tell you how long it takes from the time they receive an article to the time they review it and the time to print. So that may be very important in your career development early on. If you're looking for new employment, you need to have publications and you need to have them quickly. Number two, cost. Many journals have publication fees. Sometimes these are quite expensive and sometimes not. Sometimes they justify them as review costs and sometimes printing costs. But publication fees are common in some fields in science and not so much in others. Next. So, what is the fit for your manuscript, and how does it fit in the recent similar topic published by this journal? Next. And how does the length of the article fit with the journal's typical publication? If the typical publication is 3 pages, then your lengthy article probably won't be very popular among the editor. Next. And are there any special issues upcoming? Now that most journals have a website where they tell authors a variety of things, they may also post that they have an upcoming issue focused on, let's say, cervical cancer or breast cancer or length of time to diagnosis. And if your journal happens to fit into a special issue, it's very likely to be attractive to the editor. Next. So get advice from experienced people, your mentors and your co-authors, particularly as to what their preferences are, and share your thinking with them when you select a journal. Next slide. Here is an invitation that I received from a predatory journal. Galvin Publishers. And they describe themselves, and then they ask me if I'm interested, please send my updated CV, research interests, and so forth. And they hope I will accept their invitation to be on their editorial board. Well, frankly, they just won't use my name. They don't have any intention of actually using me as a reviewer. So I show you this. Many faculty members in epidemiology and other fields get these letters of invitation very regularly from these predatory journals. Next slide. So the study was done of academic journals, and as an example, I've put a few things on the slide here. The previous letter was from the Galvin Publishers, and the question is, at least in 2016, their startup website said, Galvin Publishers is a newly launched international open access organization with all of its journals. All of its journals are in the initial stages of developments. Next slide. So they publish all kinds of manuscripts, they say, from fields related to clinical, and note the spelling here, biology and medical especially. So as you read this, you think, well, this is a little bit of a clumsy English sentence. Indeed, it is, and it's very characteristic of these kinds of journals. It says, although article processing charges are required for accepted manuscripts in order to manage the publication costs, the charges aren't listed in their website. So in this case, if you pay the page charges, your article will be immediately published. It probably will never go through a peer review process, and that's how these journals make a profit. Next page. So in this case, this is very big business. The fake journal business is totally robust. Investigative research has estimated that 420,000 articles were published in these journals in just 1 year. And this group of people did a study of predatory journals, and they found that the average price to the author was $178. And the people who did this study started by simply counting the number of journal titles published by the 1,030 publishers on Mr. Beale's list, Dr. Beale's list, as of September 2014. Dr. Beale is a U.S. researcher, and it was his hobby to investigate predatory journals. And he created a list of them. And the researchers who did this inventory used his list. Next slide, please. So his list included 416 single journal publishers, and from this list, the researchers identified over 11,000 journal titles. Most of the publishers were based in the developing countries of Asia, with India leading the pack with 27%. Next. So how do you make a personal publishing plan? Well, start planning when you first conceive of the article. The end point will be the publication. So use a planning outline such as my paper proposal form. Next slide. So this is the paper proposal form that I created about 25 years ago, and I'll go over each of the items on the screen. Next slide. So you can complete this in paper or download it and turn it into a Word file. The first thing is the working title of the paper. Next slide, please. So step one is who is making the proposal? Well, for those of you in this room, it's your name and the date that you did this first version. And list the probable title of the study. You can list more than one version of the title. And what are you going to call it with you and your collaborators? You're going to call it the cervical paper? I'll put that down here if that's the label you want to use while you're writing this manuscript. Next slide. Step two is who is the writing chair and who are the other authors. So I encourage you to be the writing chair of your study, and the writing chair should identify who the other authors are and put them down on this draft form. And then who are you going to acknowledge? Well, these are the people that were essential for your research, but they may not have devoted scientific input. They're people that may be the tumor registrar's employees who have been very helpful to you, and you'd like to acknowledge them. Next slide. Step three is what are the research questions? Why are you doing the researching? List your research questions. If they may be hypothesis-based, they may be descriptive, but this is the place to put them down. List the potential journals I think might publish this paper. And when do you expect to finish your first draft? This is a critical item because if you don't do the first draft on time, your co-authors are going to wonder if you're capable of doing it. And then put the expected date of submission. That might be a month or two after your first draft and after your mentors and co-authors have had a chance to give you some input editorially. Next slide. So, what are the research questions? This will be in your introduction, so this is a good place to list them. If you can't articulate the research questions, you're in trouble. And perhaps your mentors and co-authors can help you. And what were the data needed for the paper? And remember, you could write this draft before you even do the study. So list the data needed for the paper. Anticipated analyses to be conducted. Are you going to do a multivariate analysis? Is this a descriptive paper? And what sort of analyses will you need? And then what additional data analysis may be necessary from your co-authors. So if there are special needs for outside expertise from the statistician, this is a good place to write it in. Next slide. So are there any other needs or issues that everybody needs to know about? And is there a principal investigator study within which you're working? In that case, the principal investigator needs to initial and date his paper proposal form. Now, this form can be done in many versions, and that's usually the case. So if you do this and circulate it among all your co-authors and those who are going to be mentioned in the acknowledgments, you'll get some early buy-in. You may also get some early pushback. So you need to learn whether everyone agrees with this approach. Some people will say, oh, well, I think I need to be the first author, or I'm the senior person, I need to be the very last author. These kinds of things need to be worked out before you write the paper. Next slide, please. So how do you really implement this plan? So I used to say do it in pencil so you can revise it, but in this case, just do it in Microsoft Word so you can revise it. And go it to your mentor immediately and ask for editing. Next. And put it in a document for distribution. Here are the people to send it to. Any co-authors, any acknowledged helpers, and gatekeepers. Next slide. And date it. Send it to everybody concerned with a reply by request. And respond to all replies individually if you can. Next slide. Revise the form, date it, and send it back to everybody so that they can see what changes you've made. You can use track changes in this case. And then start writing that manuscript. Next slide. So this is, research articles are typically structured in this basic order. I got this from Wikipedia, and it looks like this. You start with an introduction that says, why was the study done? What are the previous studies that were related to this that made you think your study needed to be done? And what are the methods? When, where, how was the study done? And the results. What answer was found to the research question that you had in the introduction? And in the discussion, what might the answer actually imply? And of course, most people say it implies that we need to do more studies. Next slide. So the first item there was, why was the study undertaken? And here are the issues. What was the research question? Was this an exploratory study? Was it descriptive or hypothesis-driven? What was the purpose of this research? These are all the things that need to be in the introduction. Next slide. The methods section. And you can usually write the methods section before you do the study. So when, where, and how was this study done? So what were the materials that were used? Who was included in the study groups? And how were they selected? Was there a control group? And how was that selected? All of these things should be in the methods. You probably said something about this in your IRB application. Next slide. And the results. So after you finish the study, you've already done the methods section and the introduction. So what answer was found? to the research question you posed. What did your study find? And was the tested hypothesis true or not? These are the kinds of things that you write when you have your data together. Next slide. And in the discussion, you ought to say what you think your result implies. And why does it matter? How does it fit in with what other researchers have found? And what are the perspectives for future research? So that first item, what does the answer imply and why does it matter? I tell people this is what you need to be able to explain to your mother. So this is really what is quite important, and many writers just gloss over this opportunity. Next slide. So to organize your manuscript, consider all these items. And I recommend that you prepare the figures and tables before you do the study. They won't have any data in them, but they will clearly illustrate to you what the variables are. And then write the methods. As I said, you probably needed to do that for your IRB application. And when the data are finished, write up the results and write the discussion. Make a very clear conclusion. Write a compelling introduction. Now, I suggest you write this introduction after you have the results. And then write the abstract. Now, an abstract, some journals require a form for the abstract covering various topics and others don't. In my consideration, I write abstracts as an advertising document. It's to entice the reader to look at the whole manuscript. The abstract should lure the reader into a read of the entire manuscript. So compose a concise and descriptive title. Remember, the title is what's going to be searched online. So use keywords in your title. And you need to select keywords for indexing, and you don't want the editor of the journal to just randomly assign some keywords. So you should suggest the keywords. Be sure and write the acknowledgments and write up your references. So I collected this from Elsevier, great publisher. You can look at that anytime. Next slide. So the tips I've gotten from reviewers over time have been the following. Finalize the results of the discussion before you write the introduction. This is because if the discussion is insufficient, how can you objectively demonstrate the scientific significance of your work in the introduction? Next. And in acknowledging, these are people who contributed to the manuscript, but not to the extent that they would justify authorship. It's not a black and white decision. For example, technical help and assistance with writing and proofreading probably is worth acknowledging. But the most important thing is to thank your publishing your funding agency, or the agency that's giving you a grant or a fellowship. Next slide. So here's what you should put in your manuscripts related to your summer research experience. You can quote it. It's supported in part by a grant from the National Cancer Institute. Here's our grant number. The title is Cancer Epidemiology Education in Special Populations, City University of New York, School of Medicine, Palmer Solomon, Principal Investigator. Next slide. So, any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Chamberlain.